Jim Minns, Communications Officer with the PSA. On the podcast this week...
Serco do not make money off prisoners. They make money off their staff. Every single shift that's empty in a private correctional centre, every single day, every time there is a shift not filled, that's profit as well. So that's how Serco managed to draw a profit out of a correctional centre. It's not through the prisoners, it's through manipulating the workforce.
Enterprise bargaining begins with Serco, the private enterprise running the country's largest private prison, Clarence Correctional Facility. The CPSU New South Wales is asking members who work at the Clarence Correctional Facility to vote no at the upcoming Enterprise Bargaining Agreement. This week we sat down with CPSU New South Wales Assistant Branch Secretary Troy Wright, who outlined exactly what Serco, the private operator, were bringing to the table and why it was unacceptable for our members.
Serco opened this jail in June last year. It's been running for about 12 months. Before it ever opened, as the union that covers those employees, we approached Serco in 2019 repeatedly. So look, can we negotiate a Greenfields agreement? A Greenfields agreement, for those that don't know in the federal system, is an agreement just between a union and an employer before they employ anyone. It gives them the instrument that they can then go out and advertise the jobs and they know what they're going to be employing people as. Serco said, no, we're not going to do an agreement. We're going to do individual contracts. What they meant by individual contracts was they'd employ people on the Federal Modern Award. Now, the Federal Modern Award isn't like our state awards that our state employees are employed under, which have been negotiated, and it's an award delivered to reflect the exact circumstances of the work. It's basically a safety net. It's an absolute baseline rate. So we have correctional officers there that have worked there for this year, and they are currently being paid $24.21 an hour on the Federal Modern Award. That is less than Bunnings pay. Now, not surprisingly, Serco's having enormous problems attracting people and enormous problems retaining people. If you've got a choice between working in a maximum security men's jail with some of the most hardened prisoners in the state and working at Bunnings for more money, I'm pretty sure 9 out of 10 people would choose the latter. We started a process last year, it's called a majority support determination, where under the Act, if the majority of the employees want to enterprise bargain, the Fair Work Commission can issue an order saying you have to enterprise bargain. So that took several months. Most of the staff signed up to that. They said, we do want an enterprise bargain, which was great. And Serco relented and came to the table in January. Now, since then, we tabled what we called our log of claims, which is basically a document of things that we think should be in the agreement. We put forward that there should be an allowance, as there is now, for permanent night shift. Serco said no. We put forward that you don't have adequate personal leave. They said no. We asked for maternity leave. Serco said no. But most importantly, we wanted a significant increase in wages. The wages were inadequate. And we did a lot of deep diving into every single enterprise agreement that exists in the country. We came up with what we thought was the industry average, a fair reflection of what that wage should be. That was $32 an hour. Serco ummed and ahed when we explained that, and eventually came back to the table and said, look, we know you want 32. So their offer at the moment is $26.88 to do the work those people do. Will see them be the second lowest paid correctional officers in the country.
Troy, you were saying earlier, we had a discussion about this, and you mentioned that Serco, in their operation of this facility over the past years, are actually quite happy with their staff and have claimed that the benchmarks for the operation of the centre have all been met. What's the issue? Why the reluctance, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good point because, we've just passed the 1-year anniversary, and Serco rightly had a fair bit of fanfare around that. They said, look, we've been running a year. They're operating very well. There haven't been any major incidents at that jail, notwithstanding the fact that they are dealing with a very, very difficult population. And that result isn't because of the company. It's because of our members on the ground that have delivered that result. So it's quite a funny time that at the same time the company's praising them and thanking them for their valuable work and telling them how important they are. they're offering, frankly, an insulting pay offer. Serco is an £8 billion multinational company. It has a presence in almost every single country in the world. Its expertise, and it's proud to boast this, its expertise is outsourcing government contracts. So it does almost anything that is available. This is a private sector company, and our union isn't often dealing with private sector companies that are openly motivated for profit, and that's what it is. And let's be clear, Serco take this contract with the New South Wales government to run this jail. They do not make money off prisoners. They make money off their staff. They make money off their staff in two ways. One, they would be tendering to the government. There is no way they told the New South Wales government, we anticipate paying $26 an hour. And that's what their figures would be based on. No way, because that would have been lowballing from the start. So that margin between whatever they've agreed with the New South Wales government per hour per staff member and what they're offering is their profit. Secondly, every single shift that's empty on in a private correctional centre, every single day, every time there is a shift not filled, that's profit as well. So that's how Serco managed to draw a profit out of a correctional centre. It's not through the prisoners. It's through manipulating the workforce. And so this is, for us, a matter of pure greed. That company should be made to share the profits it's making from the contract with the New South Wales government with the people that produce it. And that's the workers. That's not Serco, that's the workers. And it's time for Serco to distribute those profits to those workers and assist them.
So where to now? What are the actions that we're going to be taking in the future to make sure that our members and their colleagues get what they're owed?
As a union, one of our major principles must be solidarity. It's about supporting each other. And if the people in Grafton in particular, but in the North Coast, are aware of what's happening with one of the largest employers on the North Coast and can support them in some way, that would be great. On the 14th of July, so next Wednesday, this agreement, and I use that term loosely, this proposed enterprise agreement is being put to the staff for a vote. And if more than half the staff accept it, then it becomes an agreement. If less than half the staff accept it, then that's the path we're hoping for. If half the staff at least say, no, we don't want this, we go back to the bargaining table, we resume negotiations. But more importantly, at the same time, simultaneously, we are going through the Fair Work Commission to do what's called a PARBO. A PARBO is a protected action ballot order. So our members are getting in the mail next week another vote from the Australian Electoral Commission, which is whether or not they support taking industrial action. If the majority of them vote yes and say, yeah, we do want to take industrial action, that's what we'll be doing throughout August and September. Industrial action is, for us and for most unions, a last resort. It's a serious action. But I can tell you, I have not worked for some time with a membership group that are as motivated and as angry as our members at Clarence Correctional Centre. They're sick and tired of being ripped off, and they're sick and tired of being disrespected with paltry pay offers and platitudes as praise. What they want is a fair income and a reasonable income that helps them stay in that job. They care about the job. They don't care for being paid nothing. But rather than it just being negotiations where we hoped Serco would see common sense, it'll be negotiations backed up by industrial action. And if that's the only language that Serco understands, that's the way we're going to communicate to them.
Call the PSA CPSU New South Wales today on 1300 772 679. That's 1300 772 679. This is a weekly podcast, and you can subscribe to the PSA CPSU podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jim Minns. Thanks again, and you'll hear from us next week.